Jason, as it is each and every week, the Lee Summit Town Hall podcast is brought to the good people by Budget Blinds of Lee Summit.
Budget Blinds!
Jason, do you know what month it is?
It's October.
It is October, but also it is safety month in the window treatment world.
That's an amazing thing. Well, let's talk a little bit about safety.
First off, here's the big thing. Automation. That's the word. That's the word we've been talking about lately. Automation. It takes those nasty cords out of the way. Nobody's going to get tangled in them. Nobody's going to try to eat them. Nobody's going to trip over them.
That's true. In addition, being able to program, you can have those shades up or down, open or closed during the right times of day to keep your heating bill or your cooling bill at a minimum, maximizing that energy efficiency.
And one other note about our friends at Budget Blinds. Once again, they are making a difference in the community. They have an event coming up on October 5th. It's a special after-hours event that is benefiting Hope House. It's part of that Why I Care campaign you've probably seen happening all over social media lately. This is why we like to partner with them.
They are not only a good business, a good partner to this podcast, but a good community partner to go with it. Good eggs all around.
They are. Go see them. Budget Blinds right in the heart of Lee Summit in downtown. Tell them Jason and Nick sent you. Jason, it's here.
Oh, yes.
The time has come.
Chili Fest.
I am ready to ascend the throne.
You know I'm going to win and not you, right?
It's a team thing, man. There's no I in team.
There's
it's Chili Fest this weekend.
There are eyes in chili, however.
There are. Hey, this Saturday, October 5th, it is Chili Fest happening in the parking lot behind Bridge Space in downtown Lee Summit. And as I'm sure you've probably heard, your Lee Summit Town Hall crew has a team.
We are going to win. Win.
And we are going to win something, even if it's worst food ever.
It might be that prize, but there are 4 categories. You have an opportunity. I bet they're still taking signups if you really, really want them. And even if you're not, you have an opportunity to be there on Saturday morning at 11 to 2. Bring your $10. All proceeds are going to go to benefit Coldwater of Lee Summit. And with that $10, you're going to get a spoon that's going to identify you as a taster. And you can go around and you can sample some of our community's best chili, wings, and salsa.
There it is. That's all you need to know. Chili Fest, Saturday, 11 to 2, downtown Lee Summit. Be there.
Come and say hi to Nick and Jason.
There you go. By the way, I'm going to have a mic all day long. Hello and welcome to this Friday conversation episode of the Lee Summit Town Hall podcast. This is a fun show for me today. We get to talk about art and people making cool things. And then, also, Jody, this is for you. They're going to sell them for money.
Yes.
I've got with me today Jody Fristoe, the event director for the Summit Art Fest, which happens next weekend right in the heart of Lee Summit, in downtown Lee Summit. I also have the father of Summit Art Fest, Tom Mallot. Tom, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we have Wanda Tyner, who I hear is a really awesome glass artist that's going to make me very jealous of her talent. Wanda, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Well, guys, let's talk a little bit about the Art Fest. This is a recurring annual event that happens in downtown Lee Summit, and it's kind of one of my favorites. It's not the biggest festival that happens down here, but it's one of my favorites because there's just so much cool stuff on display that you can get to. Jody, what year is this?
This is the 12th year for the Art Festival. It is the 6th year to have it in downtown Lee Summit.
Tom,
Yes.
I want you to chime in now because I'm a history nerd. So I want you to tell me a little bit about how this thing started. Why did we start doing it? Because I don't know that everybody thinks of Lee Summit is the home for art and artists and fine art, but really it is. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Why did you guys kind of come together and put this thing on?
That's great. Well, Lee Summit was the home base for the beginnings of Summit Art. That all happened back in around 2004. And you previously said that I was the father of the festival. Well, thank you. I'm sort of, I didn't come in late, but there were 2 or 3 of our Summit Art members that had been gathering together in a little yellow house right over here on Southwest Market, and they were doing their art. So they were looking for a better place to do this. Ended up, we got together with St. Luke's East, and they offered us an opportunity to hang art in the hospital. They also offered us an opportunity to have our meetings there, and that all began. A few years later, we found ourselves out in New Longview in a building out there provided to us by David Gale, and we were working out of that building, and several of us at that time, we're talking now about 2007, and the opportunity was, why don't we have an art fair on the street? And that really hit me right between the eyes because that was my passion. I was doing a lot of art fairs that time all around the Midwest. So that was the early beginnings of the festival. But actually a lot of art was going on by our organization between 2004 and 2007. So the first 5 years, our art fair was called the Longview Art and World Music Festival, held out in New Longview. And that's where we really got the thing rolling.
You said the idea kind of just hit you.
Well,
and so what I want to know really is what is it about art fairs, about street fairs that really pulls you in? Why is that different than, you see you've got Summit Art has gallery at St. Luke's, you had a gallery in downtown. Why is the street fair different for you?
Well, it's just it has an element that just causes all of us that are like to do art and show it and sell it and visit and everything, and then to do it on an outdoor street setting under all of these crazy conditions is just somehow appealing to a lot of us. Some of us, though, hate that kind of thing, because it is a lot of work. And then you have to deal with the weather. You have to all everything. But that's what I was doing at that time, from Minneapolis to St. Louis to Springfield to Salina, Kansas, and the people, the artists that you meet, the camaraderies that you develop, and the awesome art is just overwhelming. So to be a part of that scene, to roll into town, set up your tent, and just try to sell it and talk about art was extremely, that hit me. That was what I associated with.
Well, tell me a little bit about your art, the art that you were doing.
Well, I do fine art photography, and I've been doing that since I was a sophomore in high school. But I did not start doing that seriously to sell until about 2000. I had retired from teaching, and a friend of mine, a very, very good friend of mine who's now dead, Jim Ryan, I had taught with him for years, and he said, "Tom, why don't you get some things together and do Westport?" I said, "I don't have enough things." I was doing weddings and portraits and all that too. But I did, and that started it rolling.
We all need that friend who's going to give us that kick to do the things, because it's always someone on the outside that says, you should do this, you can do this.
Yeah. So last year, just a few month ago, I did my 20th year at Westport.
Wow.
And it's been a delight. I've trimmed back a little bit. I'm just doing shows around town, but this one, the Summit Art Festival, became my real passion. And so I tried to be, I was the director of it, co-director of it, cleaned up the mess afterwards and set it up beforehand and all that stuff for many years.
People always forget about that, the after the festival cleanups.
But it has become the largest art fair in eastern Jackson County. A full weekend outdoor art fair with artists coming from 12 or 13 states.
You mentioned earlier, you talked about the community, kind of the art community that settles in around festivals. Yes. And so what is it a little bit about that? And I'm curious how that community has grown in Lee Summit just around this particular festival, because you've seen it change and grow over the last 12 years.
Well, it's most of the artists that show in our festivals are local or regional, and it has grown, but it also represents a fantastic way for artists to show and talk about their work, bringing a cultural effect to the community. And that's part of Summit Art's mission statement. And so we feel like when you have 100 booths of artists, and each of these artists has a lifetime of education and dedication to their art, it is an awesome gathering that is pretty special.
I'm going to pause here, and Jody, I'm going to bring you back in because I have been remiss. I did not start this off with the exact dates and times of the festival, and let's make sure we do that. We're going to do it again later on.
The festival is always the second weekend of October. This year it's October 11, 12, and 13. It is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We open on Friday at 4 o'clock. 4 to 8 p.m. on Friday. On Saturday, we go from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And on Sunday, we're open again from 11 to 4 p.m.
You just heard Tom talk a little bit about the history and the growth and the community around it, and all of these artists that come in and they have lifetimes of experience. So how are you, as an event director, how are you going out and working with Summit Art to find these artists and to bring them in? And we have, tell me if I'm wrong, but the last time I talked to you, you told me we had more than 100 artists.
We do. We have 110 artists this year, and they're coming in from all across the country. Our featured artists are actually a husband and wife pair coming all the way from California. We have artists coming from North Carolina and artists coming from Wisconsin. And as Tom was speaking, I was reminded of a very subtle comment that he made at a committee meeting a couple of years ago. He said, all these years I've been doing this festival, I sure would like to have 100 booths on the street. That has always been a dream of mine, to put 100 artist booths on the street. So I made sure that happened. Last year and this year, we have placed 100 artist booths on the street. We added another full city block so that we could accommodate that. And we are just so pleased to be able to share this gift with our community.
Wanda, you're over there. You look a little like you're ready. You're ready. You've been left out of the conversation so far. And actually, I have always, from afar, thought glass art was really cool. It also scares me a little bit because it seems like I would break a lot of things and never, ever produce anything. Tell me a little bit about glass art and all of the different things, because I feel like it's this giant field. But what do you do?
Yeah, glass art has a lot of disciplines within it. I specifically do kiln-formed glass art. And within that, there are a lot of techniques. I like the ones where I get in the kiln at about 1800, 1900 degrees, and I move the glass around to get different effects, to change the patterns, to create my own colors, and then from there I shape the glass and make it into sculptures, wall art, or functional pieces of art.
So you're actually manipulating the glass while it's in the heat.
Yes.
How do you get here? I've always been curious about this. What do you use to color glass when they do it?
Glass actually, it can be clear, but you also can buy it in primary colors. And then when you're in the kiln moving it around, that's when you get the wispy looks, the Baroque looks, or just a change in the color.
Do the colors mix while it's melted in that liquidy form?
Only,
liquidish?
not if you just leave the glass in there. They won't change color. But if you're in there moving it around, you'll create the different looks.
How did you get into? I'm always curious how people get into their art things. Like, what drew you to glass? And that's not something, you don't take a glass class in high school.
No.
You don't. So what really kind of drew you into it?
Actually, over the years of my husband and I's travel, we would gravitate to buying glass art for our home. And we have a lot of glass art in our home. And I just made this list of things I wanted to learn. And at the top of the list was how was the glass art in our home made. And I thought it would be take a class, I'm done, move on to the next thing I want to learn. And instead I just got deep into it and took classes all over the country by well-known glass artists and just got addicted. He didn't even know I had any creative gene in me until then.
I love that, though, a list of things I want to learn. I feel like that's kind of a life lesson. We're going to have a moral to the story in this episode today. Make the list of things you want to learn. Tom, I'm going to shift back to you. So why photography? You said you started in high school. What?
Yeah.
Is there something about a still image that just appeals to you?
I think one of the things, I taught high school photography, but early on I taught 8th grade and general science and earth science. And so when I got into photography, which I had been in since high school, the idea of combining the science of light, art, and all the mechanisms and tools of photography with the composition and those elements of art. The two just were so opposite that to bring them together in one into photography, which of course means painting with light, and that was just a cool thing. And the equipment was cool, but it took a while for me to look at photography as an art. But I was fortunate enough to be able to teach photography and do it the way I wanted to do it, and so that's where it all began to form.
I am a passable photographer, and only in that as my career in newspapers I had to learn, was forced to learn, but having that eye is something that I've never really understood, or I learned to shoot sports, and I know sports well enough that I can be in the right place. And if you push that button enough times, you're going to get a shot. But I'm curious about when that moment you said it kind of clicked for you when you realized it could be a fine art and not just your love of the technique and the tools.
Well, you start looking at the art in galleries, the Nelson. You look at the masters of art, and you try to see what they saw when they painted that picture or when they photographed that image, and then you try to apply some of those techniques to your own work, and pretty soon the formation starts to happen. Imitation is the best compliment. So I really at this point I've learned so much about photography and art that when I look at images I become more confused as to what really art is. Because there's such a variety of it, and to judge art is very difficult. But if something speaks to you, then you look for a way. First of all, that you have to see a subject, and then you have to visualize how you're going to take it. Ansel Adams, which is our heroes, one of his basic tenets was pre-visualization. You visualize how that image is going to look when it's in a frame, hanging on the wall, while you're taking it. And then you use all the tools and techniques and science that you can muster up to try to capture that.
So when something speaks to you, what do you hear? What is that voice, that thing for you?
Well, all of that that's in your mind comes together, and you say, "Wow, this has this is going to be something. If I can just get it in the right light," and then that's the next problem.
So, okay, I'm going to go back to Wanda and her art that you make. When you start, is your art, is it something that you have kind of an end in mind when you start? Is it a fluid, kind of sounds like a pun, but is it a fluid thing that just you start going and see where it takes you?
It depends. Because sometimes I go into it with a vision of a landscape or something like that I want to represent. Or sometimes I do pieces like someone has a pet that they want me to render in glass. And so, yes, there I'm starting with a design. But when I want to do my abstracts and just work with color and create transmission of glass, I just let myself go and see how it flows together.
Well, Jody, I'm gonna come back to you a little bit as the event director for this. You have here, just right here in this room, you've got two very, very different styles of art and approaches to art. And then I know you and I know each other a little bit, so I know that you have your own variety and tastes, and well, pretty much you'll buy anything purple, but
that's always true.
So when you're kind of out looking and you want to bring people into festivals, and you're always recruiting year round, you're always talking to people about this festival and stuff. What are you looking for when you want to bring people into the festival?
Well, as far as bringing artists into the festival, we're looking for a wide variety of artists representing many mediums. So we have fiber art, metal art, glass art, photography, various types of painting. We're looking for a wide variety, but we are also looking for quality and distinction. We have a very strong jury process for our artists. So we send out a call for artists every year, early in the year, and we solicit applications from all over the country. And then we have professional artists that gather and they jury and score each artist on a variety of methodologies and creativities and expressions and originality, things like that. So we have quite a rigorous jury process for artists to get into the festival. So we're always confident that we're not only providing variety, we're providing really high quality. One of the things that, an added component to our festival that we're all really proud of is the student art component. So not only do we have over 100 professional artists displaying and selling their artwork on the street, we also have many, many local students, middle schoolers and high schoolers, that are given the opportunity to display their work in the festival as well. We have our student art pavilion, and in there are over 250 original works of art created by our local students. And what we do that I think is unique is we provide these local students with an opportunity to know what it feels like to be a professional exhibiting artist. We have judges that come in and review their work and judge it. We award lots of ribbons, and we display it in a professional manner. So it's a really unique opportunity for these students in the festival as well.
I'm going to put a pin there because I want to come back and talk to you a little bit about the student thing. But I want to go first. I want to go backward to something you just talked about, which is your juried selection of artists. I think there are a lot of people, probably the casual attendee of an art fair, doesn't realize that you don't just get in because you paid your $400 for the booth fee or whatever. I'm making up a number there, but that it's hard to get in, and you have to show. Is that unique to a certain like tier of art festival? Is it unique to this one? What is that like?
Well, I think most of the art fairs and art festivals across the country also go through some sort of juried application process. We are different from some of the other craft fairs that are out there in that it is a little more stringent requirements to get into our festival. And that does allow us to provide, like I said, higher quality art on the streets for our patrons.
May I interject something?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one of the keys to all of this is that your number of applications needs to be much larger than the booth spaces available. And Jody has taken that challenge, and the last 2 years, her 2 years into this, and each year we have increased the overflow of the availability, which means then that the jurors can raise the level of their jurying a little tighter, and that guarantees the highest quality of all applications that we receive that are admitted or invited to be in the art fair. And then, with cancellations that always come after that, What remains on the waiting list also are higher quality, rather than have to dip down and keep filling spaces with a lower and lower scores.
I'm going to ask this for you or Wanda, or if you both want to answer. Is that nerve-wracking? Is it a little scary to apply for the? I mean, I'm just thinking of what if they don't like me?
Well, one of the perks of being a member of the Summit Art organization is that you are automatically juried into the festival. So both Wanda and Tom, as not only being members of Summit Art, they're board members of Summit Art. They are going to be artists on the street. But for the rest of the artist pool that's out there, it's a really stringent application process, and we're so fortunate to have so many extraordinary artists to choose from from all over the country.
Yeah, I think I was just curious about, because you do other festivals as well.
And
that's just kind of
you can do.
I like competition, but I don't know if everybody does.
And you can do a festival for several years and then not get in, and because every jury is different, what they're looking for, what other artists, how they want to curate the overall festival.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with what you present, the photographs of your art, of your booth, how you present yourself has a big impact on whether you get into an art fair. So it is nerve-wracking, but you also got to get a thick skin, because it will have nothing to do with your art. You just may not get in a given year.
Is it when you're preparing for an art fair and you're putting your pieces together of what you want to take, what you want to show, and I joked a little bit in the opening that this is also, the artists want to make money. Is it hard to either prepare to make pieces or preparing to pick what you're going to show, because you don't always make everything to sell, but do you have to think a little bit like, is this going to be a more sellable piece than this piece? What kind of decision making goes into preparing?
Well, simply, for instance, when I'm making application to Loring Park Art Fair up in Minneapolis, I would not offer up any local pictures, where they may be great for Westport. They will not go in a location unless it's
the Lee Summit Depot's not going to sell there.
Probably not. But I have a picture that I've taken of the old Katz drugstore at Westport Road in Maine, and it has to go in my art fair when I do Westport.
Right. Wanda, do you go through a different process depending on where you're going or what the festival is? Yeah. I just wonder, because commercial art and retail art can be different than some of the fine art. So I was just curious about your mental processes.
Yeah, well, part of it is curating your booth so that you've got a consistent body of work that appeals to people, and you have price ranges so that you can attract a wide variety of patrons to get to know your art. So it's a combination of that you don't want to just put everything out that you've made. And being that I can only do original art, I also have to think about that. There's certain things I know always sell. I make sure I have enough of that on hand, and then I try to have at least a few showcase pieces where I can show kind of some of what I can do.
When you're first putting that, because you have to have a portfolio, you have to have enough. Was there a point when you thought, I've got enough stuff, I've produced enough good stuff that I could do one of these shows?
Yes, I began with sharing a booth with 3 other artists. It's called a quad, and I didn't have enough body of work to fill all that space. And then a little bit of success came along. I sold a few pieces, and my interest and my desire to keep doing this kept growing. I did that for 2 or 3 years, and then I graduated up to a borrowed or rented tent, and did that for another couple of years with the full tent before you make the big leap to really invest in a high-quality tent. But yes, it does take you a little bit of time to grow and get into it.
I started with galleries where, you apply for a particular exhibit and you get a couple of pieces in, and maybe then you get, a group show. And it was only after I'd been doing that for a while that I ventured into the art fair space. So I wasn't smart like Tom. I went all the way to getting the good tent and just doing it on my own and having a lot of help from Tom.
Well, that also speaks to her quality too. It's good stuff.
I just have to ask another, just my curiosity question here. So you say you travel a lot and you got into glass work, glass making because of your travels and the things you. So how does one go about building your own kiln and studio to do this? I don't know that they sell that at Hobby Lobby.
They don't sell it at Hobby Lobby. Now, I did not build my kiln. There are commercial kilns. For the kind of kilns I use are commercial. So
right, is that do you go lease space somewhere? Do you purchase one to set up at your house? How does one do on your own? I'm very curious.
Yeah, so when I was taking classes, they would have the kilns and I'd learn there, but you couldn't do anything at home then. So first I just started with having a space in my house where I could cut glass and prepare it all, and then rent some space in a local studio is no longer in business. And that was probably what pushed me to buy my kilns. Now, I don't have studio space like where anybody can come in. I begged my husband to find a new place for our boat, and I took over the back portion of the third bay of our garage, and that's my studio. That's where the kilns are, out where the cement walls are.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to ask you, we just talked about growing and having enough for booth and how you set it up and stuff. So for attendees who want to come out to the festival, there are things at, I'm assuming, various price points. So really anybody can find stuff that they want, they'd love to add to their homes or their traveling homes if they travel all the time. I mean, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have such a wide array of artwork available at all price points in so many different mediums that I really think there is something for everyone at our festival.
And I've seen the list of artists. There are some really high quality artists, some that we haven't had anywhere in the Kansas City metro area as well. A few that moved from Kansas City, so we haven't seen them in a while. That happen to pick Summit Art Festival as the one they want to come back to this year. And there are several Best of Missouri Hands artists, which is a juried organization as well, that are in the show.
For people who are new to this festival or any kind of thing like this, how do you kind of think about people easing into just there's so much stuff out there and what should people look for, not necessarily like taste, but how do you kind of acclimate yourself to all of this stuff and think about, hey, I want to add some things to my life that catch my eye that speak to me?
Well, one of the things my husband and I have always done for fun is what we call our sippin' stroll weekends. And we have always traveled to the area art fairs in our region just for fun, just to walk. And we usually go grab our wine, or my husband grabs a beer, and we walk through the streets and we just look. And whatever appeals to us, whatever is striking to us, we walk up. You start talking to the artist, and the more you learn from the artist about how they do their work and why they do their work, and you learn about the craft of it, and then you think about your own personal space and your environment, and you want some of that in your space.
I'm going to wrap things up, and now this is the quiz portion of the episode, so this is a test. And if you pass, you can get out of the vault that you're locked into right now.
Okay.
I'm going to go all the way back to when Wanda first started. Tom, what's on your list of things you want to learn?
I have struggled with the shift from film and dark rooms to the digital world. I'm thoroughly into it now. But that leap, I resisted that with a passion. I would rather go to the dark room and print for 3 hours than sit in front of a computer to do
They are
this.
different arts and different skill sets.
Yes, but the thing is, the software now that photographers and artists have to use are so phenomenal that you can duplicate any action you ever did in the darkroom and even enhance it more. And then there is a wonderful, wonderful button on the computer, save. And you don't have to go into the darkroom and start from scratch every time.
I also like undo.
Yeah, that's a good one, right. And you can come back to that image, and you can continue to work on it over and over and over. Get up, walk around, get away from it, and come back. So learning how to develop your skill to do things to the image that enhance them but not change them, to improve them without faking it, and so that your people who view your images can enjoy that and get something out of it in a positive way. That's what I keep wanting to learn how to do.
I'm curious, and because you've done it for a long time and you have actual talent where I am a hack. But I can do so much more in Photoshop that I never could figure out how to do in a dark room. That making prints and the things you can do with the light as you make those prints has always been amazing, and I could never figure it out in the dark room. But
right,
tools on the computer like Photoshop, and I'm an old Photoshop guy, that I can do almost anything with that.
Well, that's right. And we try to do it. I think one of the key things is it's so easy to overdo all of the things that you really need to put the brakes on, to caution yourself not to overdo those little sliders on the...
Stop using that sharpen tool.
That's right. Stop using that. Don't oversaturate, And those are things that, because it's so easy just to blow it out, So be real, but be artistic with your images, but just don't overdo it. Capturing it in the camera is the ultimate.
Now, Jody, I'm going to guess a little bit of your answer, and only because we're Facebook friends, and so I see some of the things that you post. You like to learn new things, and you like to challenge yourself with some art things. So what's on your list?
So I have always referred to myself as an administrator with an artist sensibility. I'm a hobby painter, and one of the benefits of being involved with the Summit Art organization is what I'm learning is how to hone my craft, how to monetize my hobby, my artwork, and how to become a professional artist. So I just keep learning from these professionals in this group on how to do that. That's
awesome. Now, I'm not going to give you the question again, Wanda, because you already told us.
Oh, but I have something new I want to learn.
I want you to kind of wrap up this portion of it, because I want to go back to that question that you started, or it really wasn't a question, it was just to yourself. Why is it important for you, and why do you think for others, why is it important to continually have that list, things I want to learn?
Oh, it's important for so many reasons. One, just to challenge your brain, to get out there and not just do the same thing all the time, to understand how something is made or how to do it, or just to prove that you can do some things that are outside your comfort zone, even if it's just for fun. But, it's the brain challenge more than anything.
I like it. Well, speaking of challenges and learning, I'm going to come back now because I want to talk about the Student Art Pavilion. We have, for the first time, there's another school that's going to be shown this year, and I'm not going to spill the beans. I'll let Jody make that announcement, and then we're going to talk a little bit about my favorite part of the festival, which is
the food trucks.
Well, okay, all right. I was going to keep that secret, but I wasn't going to tell everybody that's really my favorite part. But first of all, let's make the announcement. We've got a new participant in the Student Art Pavilion.
For the first time ever, the Summit Christian Academy is going to be exhibiting in our Student Art Pavilion. So we are so pleased to be able to give those students the opportunity to participate this year. And then, as always, one of the most popular events that happen at the festival is the Stuck on Art live competition. It happens on Saturday, right in the main intersection. Teams of art students assemble in the intersection, and on these very large white vinyl canvases, they are creating live original works of art with just black masking tape and cutting tools. It's the coolest thing to watch, and I encourage everybody, if you're coming to the festival, try to get there on Saturday.
That is, I thoroughly enjoy that part every year, just to watch this thing come to life, and it's tape. It's just, to me, it's just, it's really cool to watch an art piece happen, and these are huge things. And then, Jody, you're right.
The collaboration of the students is pretty phenomenal, too.
The theme this year is pop art, so that is wide open. These kids can derive their inspiration from anything in popular culture. I can't wait to see what they come up with.
Awesome. And then, okay, let's talk about the other favorite part. Jody,
yes.
What are my food truck choices?
Yes, there's food. So we are so fortunate. We've got 4 food vendors and 1 alcohol vendor this year. Embrace the Grape is always there. They bring the drinks. Actually, it's hashtag we bring the drinks. They're going to provide a signature cocktail throughout the weekend at 2 different locations. And then the food. We're really excited about the food that's happening this year. We have Sam and Louie's New York style pizza. Sam and Louie serves a slice of pizza that is as big as the paper plate they hand to you. So it's awesome and delicious. We have Schmecka's Italian sausage and their fresh squeezed lemonade. They set out these large grills and actually grill the sausages and the peppers and onions, and it smells wonderful and it tastes amazing. We have Grandma's Mini fried donuts and walking tacos. So I don't know who doesn't like a donut. And then we have Mai's Noodle Express. So there's all kinds of noodle bowls and bubble teas.
Awesome. I'm going to have to go every day just to hit each of the places.
We also have to mention the musicians, because to me, the way Summit Art Festival does musicians is so much better than a lot of other art fairs. Instead of bands that are overwhelming the noise level of the fair, these musicians complement the art, and they're artists in their own right, and they're going to be phenomenal all weekend.
We are so fortunate. We have a local musician named Rick Gordon. He's kind of downtown's famous local musician, and he owns a record company, Russian Winter Records and Buffalo Burger Records, and he is our musical curator. So he has brought to us artists from all over the region with a variety of genres, and they play throughout the weekend at 2 different locations. And the music is acoustical. It's kind of just a nice ambiance in the background.
And I'm going to give myself a shameless plug because Rick has a great story. So if go backward at our podcast homepage and go listen if you can find that episode with Rick. His story is really, really cool, and just a local guy who now is producing tons of music as well as his own. He's a pretty good songwriter himself, guys.
Nick?
Yeah.
May I put in another plug?
Well, that's why we're here. This is all about plugs.
We have a hospitality feature element to our art fair that's, I would say, bows to nobody in the nation. All artists that leave this art fair have been fed, they have been cooled, they have been warmed, and they have been coddled, and they have been treated like heroes. On the survey after the art fair, the hospitality element of our art fair always receives the highest marks, and I hear other artists say, "Yeah, that art fair, they treat you like you're somebody." So we and Jody has kept that going and even improved on it over the last couple of years.
Well, now I wish I had the art talent that I could be one of the presenting both. All right. Well, if people want to know more about Summit Art Fest, Jody, where can they go?
You can go to our website, which is summitartfest.org.
Okay. One last time, Summit Art Fest is when?
October 11, 12, 13, the second weekend in October. Come down and see us in beautiful downtown Lee Summit.
There you go, on the west side of the tracks this year again.
Yep.
Well, that will wrap up our show for this week. I appreciate you 3 joining me. Tom, Wanda, Jody, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will talk to everyone next week. You have been listening to Lee Summit Town Hall, a Link to Lee Summit podcast with hosts Nick Parker and Jason Norberry. A proud member of the Fredcast Network, you can subscribe to this podcast on most of your favorite podcast apps and catch us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for all the news, analysis, and conversations on the Lee Summit community. Connect with us on Facebook at Link to Lee Summit or on Twitter at LS Town Hall.